Hey guys, welcome to this my new video and the topic is rigor mortis. So first of all, what is the rigor mortis? Rigor mortis in which the rigor that is a Latin word and it means stiff and mortis means death. So rigor mortis refers to the condition of the body after the death which is characterized by the stiffness of the muscle and joints. And it occurs due to stoppage of the aerobic respiration which causes changes in the muscle. Then what are the causes of rigor mortis? Soon after the death, the cell membrane becomes highly permeable to calcium ions. So large number of the calcium ions enter the muscle fibers and promotes the formation of the ectomyosin complex and that results in contraction of the muscles. So what is the mechanism and pathophysiology of rigor mortis? So in death, after the death, there is a cessation of respiration. Then there is a depletion of the oxygen used in making of ATP. Now ATP no longer provided to operate the Sarca pumps in the membrane of the sarcoplasmic reticulum, which pumps the calcium ion into terminal cisternae. Now the calcium ion diffuse from the terminal cisternae and extracellular fluid to the sarcomere and calcium binds with troponin and then there is a cross bridging between the myosin and actin filaments occurs. Now few hours after the death all the muscles of the body undergo the severe contraction and becomes rigid. The joints also become stiff and locked. Rigor mortis is a state of the rigidity that develops in the muscle after the death and isolated muscle also develops rigor mortis. While in this condition the muscle that loses its excitability shortens in length, increases in thickness, then becomes viscous and loses translucency and becomes distinctly acidic. pH is 5.8, gradually becomes stiff and glycogen disappears and the muscle gives off carbonic acid. Severe muscular exercise immediately before the death that increases the onset of the rigor mortis. This is found in soldiers where they fight in battle, they are killed in action and also in hunted animals. And the time of the onset is not the same in all the muscles. On average, the rigor mortis starts in the second hour and is completed in 3 hours after the death. The muscles of the body are involved in the order like first of all lower jaw, face, neck, thorax, abdomen, upper extremities and lastly lower extremities. Niston's law. So in 1812, a French pediatrician named Pierre Niston recorded his observation that the rigor mortis follows a downward path that begins in the upper region of the body around the face and head and travels in a set pattern down to the rest of the bodies and extremities, known as a Niston's law. This principle likely reflects the fact that rigor mortis, while affecting all the muscles in the same way at the same time, becomes noticeable first in a small muscle groups such as those around the eyes, mouth and jaws and becomes pronounced somewhat later in the larger muscle of the lower limbs. So order of appearance. Niston's rule. Rigor mortis does not start in all the muscles simultaneously. Shapiro, 1950. Rigor mortis most likely to develop simultaneously in all muscles. First in small muscles, then in larger muscle. So in first involuntary muscle, then eyelids, neck, lower jaw, face, chest, upper limb, abdomen, lower limb and then fingers and toes. So rigor mortis disappear in the same order of appearance. Rigor mortis disappears 24 to 36 hours after the death due to autolysis. The disappearance also follows the same order. Caffeine, arsenate, chloroform, vapor in increased temperature and acidity that hasten the rigor mortis. Rigor mortis is a state of the permanent irreversible contraction and is associated with deficiency of ATP that causing establishment of permanent link between actin and myosin. The deficiency of the ATP fails to bring about dissociation of ectomyosin to actin and myosin. So it is postulated that during the activity creatinine phosphate level is associated with ATP level of muscle. The creatinine phosphate is the high energy resource of muscle and its level is dependent upon the ATP. When the ATP falls to 85% and creatinine phosphate to 30% of its initial value, the symptoms of the rigor mortis begins to appear. Normally for the relaxation, the muscle needs to drive out calcium, which requires ATP. But during the continuous muscular contraction and other cellular processes after the death, the ATP molecules are completely exhausted. New ATP molecules cannot be produced because of the lack of oxygen. So in the absence of the ATP, the muscles remain in contracted state until the onset of decomposition. So, what is the medico-legal importance of rigor mortis? Rigor mortis is useful in determining the time of death. Onset of the stiffness starts between the 10 minutes and 3 hours after death, depending upon the condition of the body and environmental temperature at the time of death. If the body is active or the environmental temperature is high at the time of death, the stiffness sets very quickly and the stiffness develops first in the facial muscle and then spreads to the other muscles. The maximum stiffness occurs around 12 to 24 hours after the death. Stiffness of the muscles and joints continues for 1 to 3 days. Afterwards, the decomposition of the general tissue starts. Now the lysosomal intracellular hydrolytic enzyme like the cathepsin and calpain are released. These enzymes hydrolyze the muscle protein, actin and myosin that results in breakdown of ectomyosin complex. It relieves the stiffness of the muscles and this process is known as resolution of rigor. Thank you very much.